Okay, thank you, everybody. I think we'll resume this committee of the whole meeting, where we're talking about service and service availability, sustainability on into the future. So I think I'll turn it back over to staff, and we'll let staff continue with the presentations.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll hand it over to Josh here shortly to continue on with the public works. So today, obviously, as you mentioned, it's a continuation of the discussion we started a couple of weeks back. We get to public works today, and then depending on time, Johnny will jump into rec and go from there. Cool. Similar format. Welcome feedback, questions. You'll even see that some additions today on the slides regarding some of the breakdown of the costs and whatnot in relation to within the department. So again, welcome any feedback from council on that dialogue at the last meeting. The engagement discussion I thought was great and really appreciate it. All yours, Josh.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So we left off, I believe we were going into drainage. Before I touch on drainage, I just wanted to highlight within the roads presentation, we omitted a free service that we offer to seniors driveways clearing snow removal. So that's a winter snow removal. And last year we added 22 new participants. So it's growing. I think our new total is at 60 driveways that we remove snow for. I think.
And I'll just add a piece of that because we traditionally have called it the seniors program, but it's actually a program specific for the policy is specific to property owners that don't have the ability to have a disability of some sort potentially that where they can't maintain their own driveway. So it used to be limited just to the seniors, and then it was expanded
right
for that.
Oh, good. Okay, we can move into to drainage then. So this is same as the last presentation. So we'll cover scope of service, levels of service, who benefits, how it's funded, expenses and funding, and then any open discussion that is needed. So as far as scope of service, so the idea behind drainage is obviously prevention of flooding for road infrastructure, for private properties, stormwater collection, flood and erosion control, and an open ditching maintenance. We do have in our system 17 kilometers of storm sewer and 280 kilometers of rural and urban open ditches. There is a breakdown if you really want to know what the actual distance is, but the urban ditches is 50 kilometers roughly. Rural is about 237 kilometers of open ditch, and then we have 13 kilometers of curb and gutter, and then some 7 kilometers roughly of culvert pipe system that is part of the drainage system. Go to the next slide, I think. So levels of service, so we're required to meet regulatory requirements for stormwater systems, storage ponds. We have drainage systems that have adequate capacity to protect adjacent infrastructure. Culvert and ditches meet regulatory requirements, and the system effectively protects infrastructure. Got anything else to add there? We do include a little snow storage design for any new designs or new infrastructure that we have adequate snow storage for clearing roads, winging roads.
So the snow storage, that's part of the snow storage. That's part of your whole drainage service.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jump to who benefits, I think. So basically all properties serviced by the stormwater drainage system and all public infrastructure within the service area are your benefactors. And how it's funded. You can see there, investment income is about 187, the IGCA is 664, and then general tax levy about 360. Expense funding there. Any questions there? We can go on to discussion piece. Drainage is fairly straightforward, I think. Well, obviously the necessity of drainage for when road development is added, or a level of service is changed. And then we have considerations for climate change impacts. And then the regulatory responsibility for stormwater returns to the environment.
Are we treating it? Do we treat any of that stormwater drainage? None of it, eh?
No, there are some requirements for holding ponds, just for sediment control,
Yeah.
which is we have one on Cordova Way and then one at the landfill.
Okay, but that's all we do is just let the sediment settle out of it. So
Yeah, that's
clear enough
part
then
of
to-
our subdivision developing.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look at the way the community is designed, if you go back and how the original drainage went in back in the day, there was less requirements than there are today. So if you look at how things roll down Musqueam Hill from the north end of town, most likely if you did that same development today, the requirements would be different. Because when we did Cordova Way, we were required to put a stormwater retention pond in, and it helps restrict or manage the level of discharge that occurs at the time. So it just helps even out the flows. One thing to just to be cognizant of also is from when you look at climate change, that's changed the requirements in terms of capacity, in terms of return events, because back in the day it used to be 1 in 100 or 1 in 200 year storm return events, and they happen more frequently than not necessarily a 1 in 100 storm event 20 years ago was probably a 1 in 10 year storm event today. Trying to keep up and maintain that from a drainage perspective would mean that we'd be ripping up a culverts all over the place and putting bigger culverts in. So we manage that based on risk and what consequences. So
Sorry. Shut that off. Well, let me shut it off.
It might be feedback.
Yeah.
Mute it. Echo.
There we go. Yeah, got it. Sorry about that. I can't read the screen from here, so I just wanted it on my computer.
So from a risk perspective and a consequence perspective, one of the things that we do as an organization versus saying, okay, let's go now and rip all the culverts up back here and go with bigger culverts is we do it based on the type of road and then what the risk and consequences if there was a piece of infrastructure that couldn't keep up, right? Obviously, if there's any potential damage to private property or significant damage to our infrastructure, then we would acknowledge that as based on that process. But in some cases, we also look at the fact that it might be a case where if something backs up and spills over on top of the road, we might have to do a bit of shoulder work, but it's much cheaper than replacing 30 culverts just to expand the size to deal with a storm event. So that said, if you look at something like 42nd Street or the airport connector or airport road that we've been doing some work in conjunction with the province, you don't want to wash out things like the Alaska Highway or our collector road from subdivisions. So then we really focus on those to ensure that we've got the capacity. And that's why over the past few years, there's been replacements for those particular culverts because the capacity just didn't meet the potential storm requirements, especially with the climate change that we've seen.
So does this include? Because we have a contractor who looks after our railroad. So does this get split between the contracts with respect, or is the dollars that you're talking about here only what we're doing with our own employees on the culverts
All
and
of it.
drainage? It's all of it.
Yeah,
So-
includes all of it.
So anything that the contractor does, they keep track of that so that, or we pay them on a different,
It depends.
schedule.
There'll be a basic road, I'll call it a road maintenance piece where
Yeah.
they're required to do certain amounts of clean up a ditch and keep culverts clear if it's steaming and things like that.
Yeah,
And then depending, I'll say on the scope of work, does that make sense? There might be some additional work outside the contract, which is tracked as part of the renewal piece, like there's significant ditching that's required, that's over and above the scope of the contract. But a lot of it, I'll call it the maintenance component, is within the contract. The other caveat that we look at too is that there's some, I'll call it major maintenance or work that we align with our IDCA agreement. And we do that so that we can track our contribution, so that we can ensure that we're maintaining that contribution. So where sometimes it might just be specific to operational, we'll line it up under a different line item per se, to make sure that we're meeting the requirements and we ensure that we keep the funds flowing for our IDCA on our side to meet our commitments too. So there's a bit of a combination, but the numbers you see are all inclusive.
yeah, okay, as long as we're keeping track of that, because it could be a piece that sort of disappears into that contract that you might not be aware is actually part of drainage, right? So, okay, good, thanks.
I guess I would just add in terms of climate considerations, so higher increases of rain events requires larger culverts or infrastructure, but we also have impacts from lower decreases, so drought issues where less flow means more material buildup, which then requires more maintenance in flushing as well. So that would be one of the considerations, kind of on both ends.
A good heavy rain does wonders for a culvert.
Yeah, yeah,
Cleans it out
cleans it out.
nicely. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, I guess? Sounds like we're good to go.
Okay, up next is our water. So, basically, same agenda, scope of service level, benefits, services, how they're funded. Into the scope of service, so we operate approximately 84 kilometers of water main. So the scope includes water supply, treatment, distribution, providing consistent quality drinking water, the Fort Nelson town site, plus Rural Water West and Rural Water South homes, businesses and parks, and that includes hydrant protection. And additionally, our bulk water filling station is available for those who are not connected to the system. Some rural users in northern locations. Within that scope, we're operating, maintaining wells, treatment facilities, raw water storage, and treated water storage. Maintaining adequate supply capacity. We have 3 raw water ponds with a capacity of about 500,000 cubic meters when full. So we deliver water at adequate pressure and flow, provide fire protection flows, maintain and repair pipes, hydrants, valves, and then the administrative requirements such as sampling, reporting, and utility billing that go along with that service.
Do we have a holding pond for fresh water so that if you do have fire flows, because I don't imagine you can make it as fast as they might use it,
Yeah,
right? So are you holding,
we have reservoirs.
that's treated,
Yeah.
treated reservoir that, okay, so it's, yeah, okay.
But to answer your question the other way, which we have talked about, in a significant situation, we have the ability to flow and bypass, if needed, the treatment plant if we had to, but then you contaminate the system. So
Right.
you'd have to do superchlorination, all that stuff.
Right, so you have the ability to go right from the
From the
raw water pond
And
directly
distribute.
to the lines.
And
if you had
distribute,
to.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Lorraine, Councilor Gerwin, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. I don't know if this is the right place to ask it or not, but if not, you can just answer it whenever we get to that spot. But it's just around the fire hydrants. last year's snow level was so high and so many of them were buried, and there seemed to be some confusion in the interim as to who was responsible for keeping those hydrants cleared. So I'm just wondering, did we get that all worked out? And if so, can you tell me whose responsibility it will be moving forward?
Yes, Public Works sat with Fort Nelson Fire Rescue, and we've developed a plan going into the future winter seasons as to who's going to be clearing hydrants and when assistance is needed. So
Okay,
There's
and can you tell me what the plan is? Is it going to be mainly fire rescue or
fire
combination?
rescue where big equipment's not required, and then Public Works to assist where needed.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
If there's an issue, contact Public Works. They're the lead agency on that, but they're coordinating the work with fire rescue, as Josh said.
Okay, perfect. Will do. Thanks.
That's the scope. If we can go to levels of service. So our water must be, it's treated to a quality pursuant to Canadian drinking water guidelines. The entire operation requires various extensive permitting requirements requirements to withdraw from the river, to treat and to distribute, ensuring northern health and environment requirements are met. Additionally, operators of the facility are required to maintain certification through training and offsite learning. We have a resilient system. We have redundancy and backups that have been built in for reliability and increase in EOC. So some concerns with fire flows and but we do have the ability to be fully functional in the event of a power outage. So we have generation backup for treatment plants plus pump stations out rural water west. We have the ability to move water within a power outage. Benefits, we can see on the map there, that's our treated water system. So there's rural water west, rural water south, and the town site. We do provide water to Fort Nelson First Nations as well. It's just that they are responsible for their own system inside the nation's land. But we provide the water to that system.
So is that system connected pipe to pipe, or are we putting it into a reservoir out there and then they're?
Pipe to pipe with
Pipe
some
to pipe.
PRV stations and.
Yeah.
And then we do supply water for bulk water haulers for rural residents that don't have wells or connected to our pipeline. And then we sell to the industry as well for oil and gas producers that require water. Plus our highly utilized in the summertime RV sanding dump for potable water.
I seen them lined up there yesterday. There's about 6 of them. Yeah. I
Like
get
to
you.
be after May long as well.
Yeah.
Jump the next slide. So this is the funding. So interest on earned reserves about 210, IDCA is 1.2, and general tax levy 961,000.
That's pretty average. Doesn't fluctuate much. Unless you're doing a water project, I guess, maybe, eh?
Yeah, when that would usually come out of the ID or out of the
Reserve.
reserve funds. So
Yeah. Okay.
Expenses and fundings there. Water service 1.6, expenses funding 1.5. It's your bulk water. And that was obviously higher back when it was quite a bit busier when the bulk water station was first put online, but has slowed in recent years.
fun fact with the bulk water station, it was about $1.8 million a bill back in the day, which was about 2010, I believe, or 11, 10. And it paid for itself in less than a year.
Hmm.
With the amount of flows. And the interesting from a flow perspective is that typically our winter flows are about similar to our summer flows from a daily flow, daily volume perspective because of the amount of trucks that would fill. So slow down the summer, but obviously the community would use more watering and whatnot.
Mm.
And in the winter months, lot went to industry at the
Right.
time, right? And of
So
course,
when's the last time we changed the rate on the bulk water?
the commercial rates or industry rates had a annual indexing, which I don't have that in front of me. I'm not sure if you have that there, Josh. We can confirm that. And then the residential rate is significantly lower and hasn't been changed in over a decade.
2010, I believe, is
Yeah.
the last update.
So,
That's for bulk residential sales. It's a different rate.
the residential rate volume is 92 cents a cube.
Right.
And obviously we don't meter houses, so we don't do that, but anywhere that we would meter anything, so we're, of course, it's metered to bulk water, so that rate's 92 cents a cube, and then
Right.
the help me out, do you have the
Industrial
number?
bulk is about $9.
$9 a cube, so significant,
Significantly different.
significant,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's indexed every year.
It
So it's
was, I
full.
don't know if it's
It
still.
was,
is.
I think
I
it
think it might
stopped
have
in
stopped.
2014, but we can confirm that.
Okay.
Is that right? 14.
It stopped at $9 a cube.
And those are the rates that would be paid for, because any of the industry within any of the businesses or industry that's in community are metered.
Yeah.
So those are the rates that be paid at the meter.
Okay.
But you'll see by the table, there's a fairly big gap when it comes to covering the cost
Yeah.
of the water, right?
And that's part of what we're here for, right?
That's
Is
the
to-
reason we're
is
here.
to see where those gaps are and to see if there's any room anywhere. I'm not saying there is, but that looks like one spot where
It
we should
continues to
be
grow and it
at least
continues to
looking
grow
at it.
every year.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And we do quarterly meter reading for all industrial applications.
Right.
Our water employees do those quarterly. We can jump to the next slide. I don't know if there's any more discussion on those or questions on the water service.
I've got two questions. Do we still have leaks happening or do you think you've caught most of them?
Well,
Like-
funny you should ask. We are working on a leak currently in front of NRMAC.
Yeah, imagine that. Okay. Okay, the second one is more just from water quality point of view. What's your take in the water department or uptake on the quality of water in the community as to drinking tap water? Do you think that most Fort Nelson people drink tap water, or do you think that they're buying their bottles at the Save On or IGA? Or is there any way of gauging that? Because it's an important public perspective that if people don't trust is our water trusted as a drinking water? I don't know if you have any answers to that, because it's not something that's very easy to measure. And what do you do? Count the number of bottles coming back to the recycle plant or
Right.
what?
Yeah, I don't know if we have a clear understanding, but I mean, we get the odd concern about maybe smell or odor,
Turbidity
but
or-
it's not, we don't get those calls regularly. But as far as what people are drinking in-house,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that number would be. but-
The easiest way would probably be just to talk to the grocery store, see how much they sell.
Yeah, because that's about it. Yeah.
Right. Whether that's increasing or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, if you purchase the big bottle jugs of water, like the big ones like when your water dispenser, that's our water.
Yeah.
It's being, because it's going through systems at the grocery store, or the health food store or whatnot, so like Josh's point, some people, chlorine and the smell of chlorine sometimes might put people off. I'll say for myself, I mean, you see me here all the time, I'm drinking tap water from my house and I keep it in the cistern, but I haul it to the bulk water station, but I run a carbon filter just to remove the chlorine smell from it, because chlorine's a necessity to keep that residual
Yeah.
To keep the water from contamination perspective, right? So so some people have that, but from a potable water perspective, it's clean, potable drinking water. It meets the health standards. But it'd be interesting anecdotally or just to understand, like to the mayor's point, what that number is, because a lot of people do drink using like purchase water bottles, right? The 500 ml ones.
I think if it was a major problem, rants and raves would tell us the answer.
Oh, yes, we usually know, especially when we've had the issue with that, we've had occasionally when there's discoloration due to the organics issue, that the chlorine actually creates that, discoloration sometimes in the fall of the year. Because the challenge that we do have, and that we have had, which we've been improving, and some of the work that's occurring even this year has been because the system's designed to treat turbid water. So of course the Muskwa is quite turbid, right? So our system's designed to treat that, but we pump and we hold water in holding ponds. So that water, those organics that sit there when the sunlight hits it, and you get those, especially the years that we've recently had where there's significant sunlight and heat, the organics grow in those reservoirs, and that silt grows, which is the sludging program this year to start on one of the ponds. So that actually creates color and odor, which the system struggles because it's not primarily designed to treat that, but we've added pieces to it to help treat it. But it's a challenge because it's not a one size fits all approach when you look at treatment, right? Because it's so, and the other piece is our water is quite hard, which we don't have an ability to treat that. You can't remove that. And it's not realistic to put a giant water softener in for the system. So back to your question regarding the leaks. We were doing a leak back in the 90s once a week. That's why so when you, not a great tracking system, but it was on average about once a week where they were doing a dig. That's why that fancy, unique excavator was purchased back in the 90s, the rubber tired one, because the town of Fort Nelson at the time was spending so much money on low beds to try to get an excavator out to do digs. They bought one that could just drive out to site and dig. Now it's quite rare. I mean, you're going to have failure, but quite rare that we're doing digs. I mean, it's interesting that I know they're doing one in front of Armac today, but it is quite rare. It's not like we're chasing leaks all the time.
Well, I know we've been trying to chase some leaks or something happening out on the west. So has the training, has the education that we've done, or has it helped? Are we seeing less loss out there in the west?
We're seeing about the same amount of usage, whether it's loss or just general usage.
Which is a significant increase from before.
We are hoping for a leak detection program this year to go that way and do some work for us.
Okay.
Yeah, and the challenge we've had out there, especially in those rural properties, is where the water system was added later, is that in many cases the leak is after the CC. That's where we'll find, right? Like we've had situations where we filled people's wells on their property because they've had a valve that's failed, because they've just tied in and they bypassed their well and put a check valve or something in and run their water directly, but kept their well, whatever they had, cistern or whatnot. And then unknown to them is, something's failed. They still got water in their house, but they're leaking water on their property, right? Which becomes challenging because for us to troubleshoot, because the only way we haven't, and that's when you reach out, like we've reached out recently around usage and getting people to check, because we're not getting anything in our system. We can't find anything, but the usage has gone up. That is one benefit to metering, because residents will become much more proactive or reactive for that matter if they have a leak in their property, if they're paying for the water, right? But there's other, there's pros and cons to metering residential properties, right? So, but that is one of the benefits if we ever went to that.
What was the question on?
The me?
Yep, go ahead.
Yes, yeah. I think I just wanted to add a little bit of a couple of points to this great discussion on water quantity and water quality. First of all, we don't have a good handle, as Scott mentioned, on sort of how much bottled water people do consume, but we do know that the drinking water system, the municipal drinking water system, supplies something in the order of 500 liters per person per day, year round, of water that is safe to drink. So that's a lot of water, whether people are drinking it or doing other things with it. And I think some of this discussion on leakage is an important piece of context as well. One thing that I can add on leakage, that 500 liters per day that is we think getting delivered to residential users. We look at minimum overnight flows in different parts of the water distribution system to understand something about leakage. It kind of gives us the overall size of the envelope. Not all of the water use that we measure in the middle of the night is leakage, but probably most of it is. And that number is relatively small throughout the Fort Nelson water system. So we don't anticipate that there's a huge problem with leakage. Of course, we know that most of the water distribution system was replaced in the 80s and 90s with plastic pipe, which helped, I think, with that really high leakage number, Scott, that used to be experienced, or breaks that needed to be replaced frequently, or addressed frequently. In any case, this sort of relatively high use of drinking water throughout the community is an important consideration. The water system does provide that very high level of service for water quantity.
Good, thank you.
I'll add our usage numbers per capita is quite high compared to a lot of other communities. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of usage.
500 liters per
Yeah,
person
it's
per day.
significant.
That's a lot of water.
Yep. And we're fortunate, I'll say, that the water source we have is typically, even in the drought conditions, we still have a fairly reliable water source being the Muskwa River. I mean, we run into challenges if we're pumping to fill those raw water reservoirs midsummer because of the organics that we're putting into the system. But from a supply perspective, and it costs more to treat that water if it's not in the system, it's not settling as long. But from a supply perspective, we're quite fortunate because we're typically not in a situation where we have a concern around supply, even though we want to be very diligent. And that's why we have watering days and times. But I mean, if you listen to the news today, the city of Dawson Creek just went from level 3 back to level 1. They've actually already been on level 3 water restrictions in the city. So it's just today now they've been able to revert back because of their supply issues, Kiskatno River being one of their areas. So quite fortunate as a community to have that supply. But again, the usage is quite high.
And there we can move on to next is the public works sewer. So same setup. So our scope of service, so it includes the collection, treatment, disposal of liquid waste within Fort Nelson. The municipal sewer collection is approximately 49 kilometers of pipe and with 3 lift stations. So those facilities include the headworks. There's 2 aeration lagoons, a settling pond, a polishing pond, UV treatment, and then the outfall, which was newly upgraded in 2019. And then the airport has its own collection and treatment. And then there's the exfiltration pit in Toad River for disposal. So for levels of service, so all homes and businesses within the service area can dispose of non-hazardous liquid waste. Wastewater discharge must meet regulatory requirements in both quality and quantity. And we have sufficient capacity and reliability in that system to support the service area. We accept domestic waste from anywhere within the municipal boundaries. And we have the RV Sani dump, which is also a free service. Jump to the next slide. As far as who benefits, so all properties connected to the sewer service, then you have your RV tourists, visitors, commercial haulers, and then indirectly all visitors and patrons within the sewer service area, rural residents and rural industry. Funding. Your interest is fairly small. We've IDCA is about 717, general tax levy is 320. And 706.
The 706 is from where?
Just trying to come up with.
Hmm.
Frontage tax,
Fees and service.
tax.
Fees, okay, fees, okay.
Expenses and fundings, and our average annual renewal of 1.2.
Hmm.
But there,
Similar to the other areas. Fair amount that's funded through the tax levy and through the IDCA agreement to maintain the system, right? So. I'll add that the reliability of this service has significantly increased over the past 15 years or so. We were in not such a great situation in the early 2000s into 2010s, and a fair amount of investments occurred in the system to increase reliability, including capacity, and to meet regulatory requirements. So that's when the addition of the sewer outfall went in, increased treatment at the sewer treatments within the sewer treatment system. And that's about 2010 is when 11 is when the significant sewer master plan was developed, and a lot of works occurred to improve the reliability and capacity of the and environmental impact for that matter with the system.
So when you express the line that average annual of 1.2 million, given what timeline does that average capture? Because you mentioned, I recall the amount of input that we did in developing, and a lot of money went into developing the system since 2010. How much of that era forms part of this number? Or is this a more recent snapshot?
So this will be the renewal program right until, I mean, that's just to maintain it. So we have, I mean, even though we invested significantly and we have a much higher reliability rate compared to or similar to the water system, like the power water system. The difference with the sewer system is we have the water system, as Colin mentioned in the 90s, that there's no ductile iron left in the system, right? All the system was replaced with plastic pipe essentially. So the oldest component of the system is basically the service connections, which when we're in 44th Street was example last year when the work was under 44th Street, the service connections were replaced there too, because they weren't done at the time when all the water was done. With the sewer, it's a combination of either replacing sewer, or it's a very robust program because it's all underground, and a lot of it is vintage. It's old, right? So what we're trying to do from the Cameron system is the goal is to pipe burst or reline, which is expensive but still much cheaper than digging a road up and replacing the system itself versus having to replace, right? So even though, yes, there's a lot of invested in the system, as you can tell, the renewal program is quite expensive also. That said, that's typical, right? What we're not getting, knock on wood, because of they want to work in the Cameron that's occurred in the work on the system is significant failures. Of course, the consequence of a significant failure is in many cases is filling basements, and it doesn't go over well when that occurs, right? Especially if it's over and over again. So that's becoming a lot less. If you remember the 2001, 2003 storm, I can't remember when we had that significant event, that system, the system, especially in the east sub side, was significantly enhanced to mitigate those particular situations where, outside of typical flooding, a lot of it was sewer backup because of the inflow and infiltration that we have with the system. I mean, I'll put it in perspective, our parking lot dumps into our sewer system. So if you could imagine that encatchment area just for that parking lot, because there's no lift station or anything there to pump the storm water. So a lot of that's been factored in as the upgrades, but to maintain that reliability, that's where that 1.2 million annual reinvestment into the system, into the reserve fund, right? Because at some point in time, I mean, it's a very enhanced system, right? I mean, we have a UV treatment system post-treatment because we need to do that as the last component before discharge, which is relatively new because that went in after 2010, but it's not a cheap system to replace and it's a requirement, right? So there's a lot of infrastructure to maintain. But to answer your question simply, that's essentially the value, and that'll just continue to increase with inflation annually to maintain the system from a renewal asset management perspective.
So that's a number, because I think eventually we might be going to the public with this. That might be a number that we add in here, and that's the asset renewal cost of this service. Like
That's what it is right there.
that's the 1.2 million.
Yeah.
But what would it cost to replace the entire, we don't have a value of what the entire system, because I look at that and I go, we're putting away 2.5 times more than what we're using to actually service the system. Like without knowing that system's worth $100 million.
We have that value too.
Yeah, so I'm just saying if we added it to these slides,
Yeah.
it would be easier then to explain to the public why that $1.26 million is there, because the system is worth $100 million or whatever it's worth.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So we actually, it's connecting the slides together because when we did the renewal program with council a few months back, that slide was on there, but it's a good point to say this is the value of this is what the replacement cost of, because I've used the term, and not specific to sewer, but for all our infrastructure, we're over $500 million worth of infrastructure for today's replacement costs.
But if we put it in this, because I think, like I said, someday I think we'll be explaining these services, particularly if we're looking at changing them in any way, shape or form. We've got to change, or we've got to be able to explain to the public why those costs are the way they are.
Yep.
And so, putting away $1.2 million when you could use $1 million, somebody might say, what the heck?
Yeah.
And you say, well, that's because if we're going to replace this 50 years from now, the whole system overall is worth whatever it is, $100 million.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Well, I guess the last question I did have a question about lining. What's the long-term consequence of lining these? You just keep lining them and lining them and lining them, and slowly the diameter gets less and less, or can you only line them once, or what happens? What's the long-term issue with lining a sewer line?
That's a good question. I know Colin, if you have anything on that one, he's got his hand up. I know that, obviously it's significant, it increases the lifespan.
Yeah.
But I haven't been to a point. I've seen it when it's failed, and it's failed because of an application issue, which is catastrophic, because then you're replacing the whole system.
Yeah.
Which was a contractor issue a number of years ago. But Colin, do you have anything you can add?
By all means, you can only line a sewer once, but it will add decades to the life of the sewer. As long as the sewer is structurally in reasonable shape and the alignment of the sewer, especially the vertical alignment of the sewer, is okay. If the sewer has sagged in a number of places, then lining doesn't work very well. But if the slope of the sewer is good, lining it gives the sewer, like I say, decades of additional life, but it can't be done more than once. So once you line the sewer, the next major intervention would be essentially to sort of dig it up and replace it, similar to what's being done on 44th.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any hands up. Same story. We haven't increased the rates. Okay.
To answer your question, if you don't have any more questions, you can go to, just, there's one more slide there if you want to go to the next slide. There you go, is your,
Oh, yeah. Okay,
so $196 million.
there it is. I just
That's
got
your
ahead of
replacement
myself.
cost. Yeah, and that's for all the assets. So. So the $500 million used to talk about, it's growing to 1.2 billion. Overall, of all of our assets. Just to put it in perspective, right? So significant amount of infrastructure, and that's replacement cost if you replace it in today's dollars, but that's, you know, the,
I really like that slide. Thank you for that. In the thing that I like, remember that the core service, these are core services that are just not going to change.
Mhm.
And I think the thing about water and sewer that councils have to get their heads around, as staff that work on them do get your heads around all the time, is that they're invisible and you use them all the time, but they're underground and they're invisible as opposed to a road that you can see it every time you go on it. And you can see the condition of it or feel the condition of it. And so, and it's just that there's a lot of investment goes to water and sewer, and we have to, we support that and want. This is one of the reasons I actually love the asset management system we have, because you are projecting ahead far enough that you can actually build reserves to manage that, because there's a lot of infrastructure in North America that is collapsing and never planned ahead. And the consequences of that is really, really severe. Calgary's an
Yeah.
example.
last week, I had the benefit of sitting with a number of CAOs within the north as part of NCLJ conference, and we got into dialogue. We're fairly well known as an organization within the north, but also within the province regarding our program. And we had some interesting dialogue, and it's very interesting to see where some organizations are or they aren't when it comes to renewal, and literally like where we were probably in 2012, like 15 years, almost 15 or more years ago. And of course, in many cases, it's very reactive based right now, and really have to load a lot of funds into trying to figure out how to afford it from an affordability perspective, right? So it's I mean, we were fortunate that our hand was forced a little bit when we got the IDCA agreement, but I think we're reaping the benefits of it today. That I mean, even though the economy is tough in the community and stuff, as an organization, we're well positioned to maintain the infrastructure. From a service level perspective, when you look at core services like water and sewer, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room as a council, as an organization. I mean, we need to provide potable drinking water. We can't have, I mean, organizations and communities to this day still have lengthy boil water advisories, but it's not something, I mean, from a service level perspective, that's not, I mean, that's not where we are, of course, right? We
Not
provide
where we
that.
want to be either.
And then the only other real wiggle room, because we have legislative requirements, I mean, we've dealt with that earlier on in my tenure back in public works with the sewer system. We have legislative requirements we need to meet when it comes to discharge and meet our permit levels. So that's non-negotiable. But I mean, frankly, we do have the wiggle room is reliability in the system, right? And again, we're not 100% reliable. We're not flying airplanes. So at the end of the day, we don't need to be 100% reliable, but we're 99% for the most part. We're pretty much there. And what that does, though, is that it helps plan from a maintenance perspective. Because typically, if you're lower on your reliability component, then you're reaction based and you're fixing things and making unexpected. Today's an unexpected repair, right? So whatever that group had planned for today, they've changed to react, right? So you lose efficiencies there too.
People will accept driving around a pothole, but if their toilet doesn't flush one time,
Don't we know it?
they're angry.
Don't we know it? Or if they flush it and it goes in their basement.
Yeah.
Because it has nowhere to go. We know it.
No, thanks for this slide. It's good. You know, I still think each of the slides coming through should have that number in it so we can.
Well,
get
this
to the point where we have them all.
will pull you through every, so obviously it shows your roads, your facilities are in there. Because this is the full asset replacement. So this is all of our infrastructure right
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah.
And I've always liked this slide. I'm glad I remember now when we talked about this, we stuck at the end in case we need to jump into it versus into the presentation. But it really puts it into perspective, right? When you talk about a little small community having $1.2 billion worth of assets that if you were to replace them today at today's value, right? It definitely it puts, I know for me, it puts into perspective for sure.
I know this is all about facilities, but I do want to understand a little bit about the operations and our ability to keep technicians in the water and the sewer side. Is that like, have we got a long-term plan to make sure that we've got people to look after it, or are we going to rely on trying to hire people in?
It's part of the succession component.
Mm.
So hiring someone off the street to run a water system or sewer system is just not an option, quite frankly. And because you need, I call it burn time, but you need that time in the seat. It's similar if you're doing your engineering or whatnot, you need firing time.
Yeah, they have to be operated.
So you have the operators. You can't just go to school and become a water. I mean, you can get a fair amount of training, but you can't become certified until you spend time in the seat. And then, of course, to get to a certain level of certification, you have to spend so much time there. So we developed a program a number of years ago where that succession could occur within the organization, within the department. So we've been fortunate because we haven't had to hire anyone externally specific to a role or look for someone because we've been able to build within. Some of the challenge you have with that, though, that's also dependent on if an individual has the desire to do so, and of course, and the demographic. Some people might have the desire or don't have the desire because they have a end date in sight in terms of when they plan on leaving the organization. So part of this, what we're doing now internally in discussions with Jessa, our new HR is broadening that and looking at other areas. So I'll give you an example. As we had a rec employee a couple of weeks ago that spent some time in the water plant just to see how it worked because he showed some interest. So because that's quite frankly the only way we're going to maintain those individuals in the organization is if we train and build within. So we're looking at different, I'll call it, options around enhancing that training program, that succession program, because in the public works side, the demographic, quite on the operator side, for example, we have some retirements coming up soon on the equipment operator side. And we don't have a whole lot of depth over there because it's not a really large department. So we're expanding outside the department and looking in other areas to see what the interest is.
Yeah, because it becomes part of the cost of service. If you've got to have a trainee program, right? Because you have to train people because they have to become certified. Now all of a sudden you might have two people over there.
Yes.
When you could get away with one.
Yes.
So it's a cost of the service in order to, and that needs to be built in so that people understand that that's why it's costing us more, is because we need to certify people internally.
Yeah.
And I looked at Josh, but I think it's probably easier to train an equipment operator than it is a water plant operator, right? And so it would cost you more. I mean, you can get equipment operators off the street.
Yeah.
But water operators, you can't. So.
No.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Are we okay to move to the rec presentation? Or did we want to show the other slide?
You can pop to the slide. It's one that they've already seen before, I think, Elian. No, remember? It's the full life cycle piece. Jump on the other one. It's a very busy slide. Basically, it's just a different view in terms of how the renewal program. These valleys show basically what the spend or the expense will be from a replacement to renewal perspective. And the colors are hard to kind of differentiate, quite frankly, but it's a similar slide that we should.
Is your mic on?
No, now it is.
Thank you so much.
I won't repeat everything. It's the same slide we've shown before.
Yeah.
It just shows it shows the expenses over the years to the various areas, and of course the annual renewal helps smooth out those costs, right? So.
Just wondering if my hearing aids were malfunctioning or what.
If it was just me, I'd say yes, but the rest of them here have evidence that it's.
Now, this also is a very good a very good slide. You could separate it right into the individual
Which we
components.
have,
or-
yep.
Yeah, or keep it together, because then you can explain to people that you do have a long-term plan with respect to replacement. And because of that, you know how much you might need in your reserves.
Yeah.
So all of this is really good information to help explain to the public why we're putting away as much as we are.
And this is one of the slides that helps support the conversation we had with council a few months ago prior to budget time, when we increased the contributions,
Yeah.
because we were able to show, and that we don't have the slide here in this deck, but it also shows then that if we didn't increase the contribution, because you can't look at it based on what's in the reserve funds today, because it's based on what the cost is going to be moving forward, right?
Yeah.
Because people can look at it and say, oh, you got a lot of money in reserve funds. But the slide that shows the expense, and if you didn't increase the contribution, shows that at some point you go underwater, right? And that's, pardon the pun, but that's where we would be if we didn't maintain that level. And our budget this year increased the contributions to help support the needs for the.
Yeah, so that's another thing that I said when we put the slides up the last time, is that with good reserves, it helps you to be prepared for any provincial or federal renewal
Yes.
grants that they have, right? So, which then helps to extend you don't have to put quite so much away, but you're ready. If you know that you're within a year or whatever of a complete placement of something, and they've got a program comes up, you've got the 1/3 if so you're not replacing the whole amount.
That's
You
right.
only have to kick in maybe a third, because you can take advantage of the federal provincial
Yes,
grants, because you have that money available.
yes.
Other communities don't have that money available, so they can't take advantage of it.
Yeah, or they're borrowing.
Or they're borrowing.
And they're
Yeah, or they're borrowing.
Yeah, and then paying interest rates, right?
Yeah. Good.
So if we're good, we can move on to rec from a time perspective. Is everyone good?
Everybody want to grab something to eat? Yeah, let's do that. We should have did that at the start, everybody, because we could have been eating while we were doing our thing here, so.
Do you want to take a pause for?
Yeah, let's
for
take
that?
a 10-minute pause.
Okay, 10
Uh,
minutes. Thank you.
10 minutes, bio break, and people can grab, in here anyways, can grab something to eat.
See you in 10.
Yeah. 10 minutes, yep. Thank you. Hey, thank you, everybody, for indulging us in that little break so we could fill our plates and maybe have something to eat while we go through the next hour. So I think we're in facilities. Johnny's here to take us through all the facilities and that parks and recreation.
Yeah, so now that Josh has buttered you guys up, we're on to recreation, parks and golf. Lovely picture of our pool there. So same agenda you guys are familiar with: scope of service, levels of service, some facts about rec, who benefits, and how we're funded, and then the costs, current costs, and then some open discussion. So this is a quick snapshot of an overview of the services. And one there that I'll just speak to is the maintenance of other buildings and facilities, highlighted there in blue, just because we at the recreation and facilities team look after the general PM maintenance of things like that, or some routine inspections. So things like fire extinguishers, emergency lights, to make sure those things are looked after on those schedules. So that's kind of a part of a recreation service, but not seen as part of the recreation piece, if that makes sense.
So are we going to, so this is a recreation and
Yeah, so this is recreation.
not facilities. And so will there be another?
And just so we're clear, the actual maintenance of those things in those individual facilities are captured as part of those scopes as well.
Oh,
So like Town Square, for example, any of the maintenance things that come over here, they are captured in the Town Square overall numbers.
okay.
So they have their own budgets, codes for that, and wage codes and all those kinds of things. It's just to note that they are housed from the rec center.
You guys do the basic maintenance,
Mhm.
lights and stuff.
Yeah, those kinds
Okay.
of things.
Good, thank you.
Next slide. Here's our levels of service examples, and it's quite small up there, as you can see, but there's quite a bit going on here. But some of our big touch points. So skating rinks, we have the 2 rinks, and we're note that we're open 108.5 hours every week based on last season. That's a combination of both rinks. So realistically, both rinks are open and available for the whole time the facilities are open. I did a bit of quick math, and of that, 67.5 hours of public skating times are available on both of the big rinks, as well as full-time availability on the leisure pond. And then our skating season, because that's seasonal, it only runs from September to March. But sometimes we have a little bit additional in August, or like last year, we shut the one rink down a little bit later in April. Our curling facility, so we're in progress on a partnership agreement with them as well to make sure that we can continue to provide the curling activity. And then the partnership with the Fort Nelson Curling Club, and they operate the lounge for themselves. Aquatic, so the public swim times and the pool programming of that one, we are open 83.5 hours per week, so a little bit less than our building open hours. Of that, it's also good to note that all 83.5 hours of those are available that public can attend. So there's no separate private times. People can always come to swim to the pool whenever it's open. And I also like to note in there that we also do the public school, homeschool, accessible, and private swim lessons are all offerings of that to make sure that not only people can come to swim, but people have the opportunity that they can come and learn how to swim as well, because that's a pretty important life skill. They also do aquatic fitness classes. They do some rehabilitation stuff in the water. We have seen some good success with some people who are recovering from injuries, or seniors, or people with mobility issues, things like that. Come and utilize the pool and get their mobility back. It's a low impact form of exercise, so we see some great benefits of that, and people who are even chair bound able to get up and actually move a little bit, which is pretty amazing to see. And then of course all of our special event swims in the pool.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when when one tank is busy, is the other tank still open? So if they're doing lessons in either tank, is the other one still open to the public?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we don't close down the whole pool then to do a particular lesson or?
No, so if the lessons are going or fitness class is on, they'll have a section that might be closed down
Right.
or where they're participating,
Yeah.
but it's not uncommon to see 3 different groups of lessons going around, and a mom and their tot swimming around in between the lessons, or trying to avoid the mass of kids that are going by learning their
Right.
skills and all those kinds
Yeah.
of things.
I don't use it much, so I'm not there to see what's going on when all that happens.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool, especially coming from our old facility where it would be when lesson time, pool was closed,
Closed,
right?
yeah.
We had lessons, or if there was a birthday party, pool was closed, it was a birthday party, those kinds of things.
Right.
Where now it's available for everyone all those times. Maybe not every feature of it, right? The water slide might be down
Sure.
because our guards are teaching, those kinds of things, but it's always available. People can always come swimming.
Thank you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Yeah, as a user, Mayor, I just wanted to let you know that I go quite regularly, especially on Friday morning. And so we have water running in part of the deep end of the pool, and then there's people doing lane swim, and then the school groups are in, and then I think there's some sort of lesson thing there. I don't know what's going on there, but it's crazy to see the amount of usage in the different and the variety of usage all during the same time. So just remembering when we only had the one pool and it was access was so limited, it's just like amazing to see the usage that takes place all at one time. You have seniors doing their own fitness thing, you have rehab people going in for the sauna and the hot tub and the steam room. Like it's just amazing. Like I would highly recommend you come down some Friday morning and just take a boo, because it's quite cool.
But it speaks to the service costs, right? Because because your people can only be doing so many things. And so if you're doing multiple things in there, you need to have more people, right? And so it's important for us to know that that's happening.
yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, that's why the question.
If I may
Yeah.
add too, so many of the guards and the instructors have gone through the lifeguard training program offered in conjunction with School District 81. So that's pretty cool to see as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, continuing on, switching gears from aquatic, we have our community amenities, and this is also encompasses all of our facility rentals and our facility space. So these are all the rental rooms in the rec center. The visitor center I would fall under there, which we operate that in a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. They operate it for us out of our building. Things like the walking track, the courts, all those types of things. And it's good to note that the rec center as a whole, it's set up as a safe and accessible gathering space for all residents and visitors alike. And I also noted on there that internet access, which is one that we find is very valuable, especially for travelers who are going through often from different countries or those types of things where they might not necessarily have the connectivity with the cell phone type thing, so they can connect with their families and those types of deals. And then we also have a lot of kids who come and enjoy hanging out on taking a break from the running around and use the internet as well. And then beyond that, we have our climbing wall, which takes a specialized attendant for that one. Which we're pretty fortunate to have. That's a pretty cool little amenity, and that falls under our rec programs umbrella. So with our rec programs group, we have all of our youth and adult programming and sports. This encompasses as well dryland fitness classes, our dance and acro classes, the public climbing as well as climbing classes. All of our special events that we put on outside of the pool are all run through the programs team. And then our administration also falls under the rec programs umbrella. So they look after all our bookings, our rentals, our registrations. They support the facility. They put out our 3 leisure guides a year, and they're also, it's important to note, they're also really the face of the rec center. Everyone who walks in and sees that customer service desk, that's the smiling faces that the people see and that greet them when they come in. So
They pay them extra for that.
it's written in their contract.
Sometimes it's hard to put a smile on, but if you pay them extra.
Yeah, it could be difficult, especially because the way the building is, it's they don't quite get to see around the corner to all the beautiful sunshine out the front doors, so they got to step out and take a peek for that one every now and then. Next on the list, we have the golf facility. So we provide the facilities and the equipment for that, but that's operated under our partnership with Poplar Hills Golf and Country Club. We have our parks, which includes our community parks and our 2 regional parks. So we look after the regular maintenance and upkeep of those and the campsite administration. And then one of our regional parks is maintained by a contractor as well. And then we have a note there for the regulatory compliance for all of our services. So similar to Public Works, although probably to a much lesser scale, we have a few governing bodies that we have to comply to for staffing complements and inspections and things like that, to make sure that our facilities can stay running and open. And then again, the maintenance part where we support some of the other facilities as well.
There's a hand up.
Oh, thank you. I can't see it. Okay. Deputy Mayor Gurling, please.
Yeah, me again, thanks. Johnny, so in relationship to the regional campsites, and the improvements that are happening out at Andy Bailey, which is fantastic, by the way, was there for the May long weekend and had absolutely all kinds of weather, like every season you can imagine. But it was great, no bugs. So, my question would be, is just concerned with possible vandalism, and will we be putting, because it's not like there's no attendant there, will we be putting in like cameras, or what are we planning around security in terms of Andy Bailey?
So like all of our parks and spaces and even our buildings themselves, vandalism is a bit of a concern and a risk. We've gone through for a lot of it outside the beautiful bug shelter that you see. The washroom upgrades are designed to be vandal resistant, and we try to do that for most of our spaces. We don't have intention to have an operator out there full time or anything like that at this time, and we have in the past gone with some camera options out there. I won't go into too deep a detail on how that worked or anything, just in case they're watching. But there are some things that we could explore that way if need be. Our hope is that people respect these spaces and look after them, because as we try to educate, and as we all know, these are spaces and structures and things that we all own and we all need to take ownership of. So our hope is that we can promote that within the people as well, educate the youth coming up that these amenities are there for them because they also have ownership of them. So that's our hope and our goal, that people actually respect all the things. We do get some vandalism that we have to deal with kind of all over in common, but we're hoping to mitigate that as much as we can and see how that looks.
Okay, that doesn't really make me feel better, but another day.
It's a hope and a prayer.
Yeah, and I mean, if we wanted to go with an operator, we had in the past when we first took over Andy Bailey, we had an operator out there, and similar to Tetsa, we have an operator there as well. on to different varying degrees. The part of that is that would increase the costs of those services.
Yeah.
So we could do that. We could have someone out there 24/7 looking after the park. Just the cost of the service for that park would go much higher.
Yeah, I just, I mean, I brought it up at the time when we were applying for the grants too. It's that shelter that's being built right now. And Brad just posted some more pictures and it looks absolutely fantastic, even since the 2 weeks since I've been there. And I'm just really concerned with what might happen to it is all.
Not fair.
Another day. Okay,
Fair
thanks.
enough. Put up the secret cameras.
Yes, for sure.
Well, I don't think they have to be secret. I think it could, just because it's so isolated, right? And not everybody has, like, there's not even cell service unless you have your Starlink with you or whatever.
Yeah.
But if there was, like there are cameras and I don't know. Maybe we need a call box. I don't really know, but I think it's something that I hope we can address and not just hope for the best.
It's something that we definitely will look into. The challenge with cameras, we gotta jump through some significant hoops whenever we put a camera up as a local government because
Yeah.
of privacy issues and
Yeah.
invasion of privacy. But that said, typically it's a last resort and you have to jump to a bunch of hoops and tick a bunch of boxes. That said, we need to do what we can too. Obviously, we're looking at opportunities to mitigate the challenge with a camera. It's reactive, but
Yeah.
sometimes it keeps people honest. Sometimes, right? But at the same time, it's a concern of ours and the balance between the costs and mitigating potential damage because a lot could happen out there on a Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And if
Wednesday
you know
morning.
that there's a group of people out there, then, it maybe is worth going out for a boo. I don't really know, but I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Next slide. So these are some fun facts of the recreation, just some cool numbers in there to have. So golf over last year they had 11,000 rounds played and 15 tournaments. Curling, there's leagues to play 5 days a week. They also had 5 bonspiels for the year, and we had 70 kids come out with the Learn to Curl. Our community amenities, we had the 68 craft fair rentals. We had 339 ski and skate loan outs, 76 birthday parties, and 93 group rentals. The rec center itself, so 180,000 patrons through the doors, or a little bit more than that. 781 program enrollments, over 62,000 place-based patrons, and over 2,600 patrons on event days. So those are some big numbers of people getting through the building. And then some notes there that it's a safe space for youth, for seniors as well, and a place for community event gathering, even things that aren't really scheduled. People come to the lobbies and have their own little gatherings there. Yeah, lots of other great numbers there. Regional parks, over 700 park site rentals. So hopefully some of those will help Mayor Greenway's case of renting the space and being there and helping police each other. Aquatic, we had over 18,400. Yeah, over 18,000 patrons and 700 program enrollments, and skating over 1,500 hours of private rental or ice user rent. Next slide. Unless any questions on that. So who benefits from the service? So the big thing is the direct benefits are all of our residents, but also our neighbors and our visitors, anyone that comes through the municipality. So our rec complex itself, especially, as well as the golf course and community parks, those are mostly frequented by our residents. But like again, those travelers coming through, they often stop in as well. And as a good note, they're always overwhelmed by the amazing facilities that we have here. Our regional parks is our NRM residents, and then also lots of visitors coming through from all over the world. And it's good to note here that our facility also serves as emergency support with our reception center, potential for group lodging if we need it, and it also serves as the safe space for warming, cooling, or clean air, which is something that we've seen in the recent years in the extreme weather conditions. And then so those indirect benefits, so business and industry, so the ability to attract and retain workers. So that's something you talked about in the last presentation about the water treatment stuff. These types of facilities are things that will not only will attract the whole family, but also keep them here because they have these types of things that they can do in the community. Yeah, and then it also provides a welcoming community and some economic development. And I see Lorraine has a question.
Yep, thanks. So when I was at the NCLGA, I attended a session, as I reported at the council meeting, with Engage Sport. And I understand that she was coming up this week. And maybe it's too early, but can you share any information on what you might know about the Engage Sport opportunities in the Northern Rockies? And then my second point is around the economic development in the tourism workshop that I attended. There's a new category now. I had never seen it before, but it's called sports tourism and the economic development of that. So that presentation was really cool. So yeah, if you could speak to that.
So I think you're referring to meeting the lovely Sarah Saunders out of Prince George, who works for Gage Sport North.
Yeah.
We met with her, I want to say last June, when we went to the Northern BC Recreation Association conference, of which we are hosting next week. So she's going to be here on site as well, coming all the way from Prince George. We since that conference, she helps with a lot of the sport things in the north, and so we've been working with her on some still in the preliminary phases or exploration phases around potentials for some sporting opportunities within our partnerships with the school system to help provide an expanded and increased level of accessible sport training for our youth, to help keep them engaged and in sport in their community. They've done a lot of study in a lot of places and realized that youth who are attending school and want to go down a performance sport stream often have better success within their communities. So we chatted a lot with them around that. Again, we're still in the preliminary phases, trying to work through, see what something like that would look like, but they are looking to expand into remote and northern communities and try and offer more of this in the communities themselves. So we're really excited to be working with her and look forward to bringing a report to council on more of what that may be.
Okay, perfect. And so you said she's coming up next week? I thought she was this week, but it's next week?
Yeah, it'll be next week.
Okay.
Yeah, she'll be here next Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh,
No problem.
sorry, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
In regards to the curling club, I'm just unsure of how that breaks down. Like, I know that the curling club is responsible for running the lounge, but any repair expenses or anything like that, I believe the municipality is responsible for that, but the curling club is responsible kind of for their own janitorial. Is that right?
Yeah, so we're working very similar to the visitor center system. I think we're in the final stages of doing the partnership agreement with them. So the curling club itself, they look after their own janitorial for their space, and they operate that space kind of independently of us. We do look after the facility and maintain the facility for any breakdowns and things like that. And then the other part of the partnership agreement is the actual curling sports service, which is a service similar to golf that we would intend to operate if the nonprofit was not around. We would still offer curling. We wouldn't offer the lounge service as part of recreation, but we would offer curling as a sport. So the partnership will allow them to operate the lounge, and then in kind they will operate the curling services and sport portion on our behalf.
Okay, thank you.
That clear up for you? Oh.
Yeah, that works for me. I just wanted to mention too that all of these different opportunities, your department has just kind of absorbed. So, you know, how we have become in partnership with the golf club and the curling lounge. And I know you haven't had any staffing increases. So I just applaud you and your team for finding the capacity, working with what you have to the betterment of our community. So yeah, just want to give you an applause. Thanks so much.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
The only other thing I would say for this slide is that I think the minor hockey and figure skating club should be listed as nonprofits but even though they're all residents, those are like national programs, right? Those are entities that are benefiting from this. So I think you can add those in here and
Yeah, that's a good note.
yeah. Any of those groups that are sort of organized, still residents, but they're organized. I think nonprofit groups they all benefit. Thanks.
All right, next slide. So the big one, how is the service funded? So you can see by this, pretty much all of it is by taxes, aside from there's a small section on fees and charges for 468,000 and a small portion of IDCA contributions for 414,000. So that is a big chunk of taxes, that's for sure.
I think that's it's actually logical though that this is how it is funded, because it's actually the largest participation of a broad spectrum of the community on that particular focus. And so from a taxation point of view, it's almost like a direct linkage to the user group, which is our community.
Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah. Next slide. So this one compares the expenses to the funding. And I like this one quite a bit, especially the portions on the right-hand side where it talks about the percentages, because it highlights a few key areas there. So overall, it broke down to our indoor recreation, which is everything within the rec center facility, which is a big bulk of that. And the funding amount from there, it covers about 5%. Golf is a big highlight there, which they actually cover about 41% of their operating expenses on the revenues. And then our regional parks is about 26% of the operating expenses based on the revenues. So total overall for recreation, we're about 6% coverage of the expenses, the rest coming from taxation. In thinking of this compared to a lot of other places, a lot of other municipalities, it's pretty common for recreation to run around about 8%. So we might be a little bit lower on some of these values, but it's something that we recognize, and we're happy that we've had council support in the availability and the low cost for our things. Lorraine has a question?
Yeah, just a comment. Actually, I think it was this council and previous council that made the decision to keep fees as low as possible to ensure that as many people as possible could take advantage of the facilities. Like there's nowhere else to go, right? So people that are in the community, if we want them to stay healthy, active, and engaged, we have to keep those, in my opinion, we need to keep those fees as low as possible to ensure as many people as possible can participate in everything that we offer. Thanks.
And you stole that. I was saving that for the end.
Okay. Sorry, I stole your thunder.
No worries. But yeah, that's one to remember. We've the council always had support. It was 2001 in December. Stacy brought a report back where council advised they did not want to change the fees up or down. They wanted to maintain the fees where they were. And another good thing to recognize with that is a lot of the fees that we have some subsidies. So we have the leisure access program. We have the seniors that are at a lower cost. And these see a big impact. A lot of our programs, the seniors attend for a lower rate, but that's the only way that they can afford to attend for those kinds of things. And within our recreation programs or our programming ourselves, we see huge increases in attendance when activities are free. So a free sponsored swim on a Sunday gets usually double or more people out to the swim versus one that's a regular admission, which is already at a low cost. So those kinds of things help demonstrate that the financial barriers are still a barrier for people. It's hard to make a dollar stretch for a family these days. So those kinds of things.
Great point, Johnny.
Another note on this one is there's a couple services there that don't bring in any revenue per se to offset the cost, but they're a fair bit lower compared to some of the other values. Well, the one I really wanted to point out was the annual renewal, and the debt servicing principle. So the annual renewal portion is light based on our annual renewal of what we would need to renew all of our recreation services, and that's partially because of the debt principle. So as we pay off those loans, the idea would be that the fees that we are paying or the principal that we are paying down on those loans would turn over into and increase that annual renewal costs. So rather than front loading it now and bringing that renewal cost all the way up while still paying the debt, once the debt is paid off, that renewal cost will come up.
What is the debt load on it? That's a question I haven't asked yet. Do we know what that debt load is?
Off the top of my head, I don't have. One second, let me read the back of my head. Yeah, I should know this because we actually paid off debt prior a bunch before it went to long-term debenture. So all we have left is 2 long-term debenture loans, but the exact number I don't have off the top of my head, but we can pull that together.
Thanks.
To Johnny's point, when you talk about the renewal component, the one of the big expenses that we have is the renewal component of the rec center. When you have $100 million rec center, the cost or something that to cost to build, and it's much more than that, say from a replacement perspective, significant costs to maintain from just an operational perspective. And I mean, one of the things we do get, and I give credit to that team, is when you walk in that facility today, it never states the age it is. It's not super old, but I've been in facilities that are 5-6 years old and lots of scuffed up areas and marks and whatnot, and that's kept pristine. It looks like today, for the most part, the day it's been open, besides some wear and tear items that are part of replacement, not upkeep. That said, though, also the cost for renewal is significant, and it's not in front of you, but the slide that we showed earlier when we ended off the public works, when I talked about sewer being 196 million from a replacement perspective, our facilities are 240 million. A big share of that over $100 million is that rec center facility itself. Just to give an example in terms of it's the lion's share of our facility replacement, because that 240 is all of our facilities: water plant, airport, terminal building, town hall, complex, everything, right? All of our pump stations, etc. So it's, I mean, and that's one of the strategies that we've put in place is as we pay down debt load. You won't necessarily see a savings on a tax bill because we'll transfer some of those to help maintain that renewal component on the facility side, because it is so large. It's a big piece.
Well, it reduces your borrowing in the future, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. In terms of the revenues or the fees and service component that was discussed, the hope is with a future council when this document and this is reviewed, is because we know the minutes reflecting the decisions of council reflect the affordability component, but it'd be good to put in some policy statements specific to that, and even a bit of a process in terms of how that's measured and maintained. Because in the absence of doing nothing, the gap will continue to grow, right? And it doesn't mean that we're trying to close the gap. And it's not uncommon. I mean, I really don't know any organization that's at 10% or more than 10% when it comes to revenues or fees that offset your cost to operate from a recreation perspective. I mean, recreation is not self-sustainable from a fees perspective. That said, each year, of course, the costs generally go up to maintain and operate. And if there's no movement at all in the fees, then that gap's going to continue to grow. And that's suggesting where it should or shouldn't be. That's a council decision and also a value from the community from affordability. But it'd be good to have just the future council that discussion around what that direction might look like. Some organizations will put a percentage to it. So for instance, if we discuss where we are today at indoor recreation at 5%, maybe that's the mark, right? And then to maintain that 5% as things creep up, your fees might creep up accordingly or reevaluated every couple, 3 years or whatever that might be, right? But it's good to know where that sits. The nice thing is right now is you have an idea where the goalposts sit, right? That's the starting point. And it was interesting discussions we had when we talked, if you look at, depends on golf, but when you talk about the amount of focus on golf through the years and I mean, currently 41% of the operating expenses at the golf course are covered by the fees that are brought in, the revenues that are brought in, right? So. And that was just a piece because what I like about this data here and the backup data and the background information is it starts to provide that dialogue and that for future councils in terms of where would you like to see that, and to make that official policy statement around the importance of affordability for the user. And rec centers aren't necessarily a core service, but they're an expected service for the livability of a community. Right?
I think it says that golfers have a bad addiction problem.
Well, what it is you're not heating and cooling water, right? Anytime you heat and cool water in a facility, it costs you huge dollars. Yeah. Do I see a hand up or is that a legacy hand?
No,
Okay.
it's a new hand.
Okay.
As we are going down this road in terms of examining fees and benefits as opposed to cost and all of that, I would like to see a component around the tourism dollars that, let's just say, for example, our rec center brings in, and somehow capturing that, because nowhere is it captured, but how many teams are coming into the community constantly every single weekend, all winter long, and the economic spin-offs of that. Like, I know it provides more usage to the rec center, which then has greater associated costs, but somewhere I would like to see that data captured as well, because it is a resource that does provide an economic benefit to our community.
Agreed. Yeah, that one weekend, maybe Josh, you can remind me, was it the under 13s or under 14s or something like that? I mean, it was the finals.
U11 finals.
U11 finals.
Yeah.
I mean, the place was packed.
Yeah.
Literally packed. And it seems to me that if you can use your facility to generate those sort of tournaments, holy mackerel, that generates a lot of income to this community. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and we consistently get feedback that those groups want to come here.
Yeah.
They want to come. The ice availability, everything in one facility is a huge benefit to them.
And the pool, so the other kids that aren't,
Yeah, and we even try to take strides, offer additional hours in the pool, things like that. We have lots of rental space for them, so they just love to come here, which is great.
Yeah.
Which is, I think we need to capture that for the next council coming in, because when you just look at the raw data, if there isn't anybody that has experienced that, then that somehow gets lost.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point, because it's the indirect benefits to the community, the restaurants, the hotel rooms, the other services. People
and tourism, right? Because how many people did we speak to this winter and in past winters that going like, holy crap, I didn't know this was here. I'm gonna come up this summer. Like, there's that component of it too.
Good.
Awesome. Next slide. All right, so the last item is some discussion points. So life cycle renewal and timing and the funding strategy. We chatted about that on the last slide. The Old Aquatic Center, which is still an item in the list. The operating costs of that are quite small. But there is still a renewal component for that as well. Probably small comparative to the other rec center, but they are continuing costs. The policy direction around fee structures we talked quite a bit about, cost versus revenue, the local affordability, which residents seem to appreciate, and then the discount programs, and then comparisons with other similar communities.
So Scott, you mentioned it. We probably should start pulling together some policy statements around this. If we're capturing this stuff, this is probably an area where we should be doing that. If we've got capital or loan costs, I guess, that we're paying off, debentures that we're paying off as they go down, then probably that money should be, then we should put that in policy, right? So that we capture it for the long term rather than just us knowing about it.
Yeah,
right
so
now.
it's kept as part of the record and it's that direction. I mean, obviously direction could change in the future, but
Yeah.
at least it's a starting point and something to work off.
Well, you have the basics of the policy. You can change the values within that policy, but the basics of the policy, I think it's
Yeah.
important to get that written up and
Yeah.
in place. Yeah. Good.
And that is all I had, unless you have any other questions or anything else for me.
I don't. We got your back, Tony. We got your back.
Well, I appreciate that.
Perfect. Good timing. I think it was that the hope was that we get through the recreation.
That was
the last of
Yep.
Public Works and Recreation today. Good. What's next?
So for future, I think next in the dock, it's gonna be, well, not today, of course, but is protective services. Just so you know, we've got a lot going on here at once right now for us as staff, so
Yeah.
we might push it out a little bit. I'll say a couple weeks out or so or more, just we need to meet anyway on Tuesday to bring in the other conversation we're having with John.
Yeah.
But we're gonna internally, as we're drinking from a fire hose right now, to be honest with you. So I'll probably send a note to council saying we're gonna push it out because we're still in the background building some of these presentations
Yeah.
and because there's so much data in the background to kind of pull together. From a presentation perspective and everything else that's going on. The chief, for example, when he was dealing with an issue with fire overnight and whatnot. So we're just gonna do a bit of a reevaluation and I'll advise, but the intent after, for the next step, when we do it is protective services. Then we go into general government and regional development planning.
Okay, so for those who may have missed, they can sit with, if they like, I don't think everybody's here,
I
right?
think everyone was here. I'm not sure if
Everybody's
they still are, but
Okay.
counselor, but they can sit with us and we can go through
Yeah.
it myself or any of the
If they
staff.
miss a part of it,
Absolutely.
you can.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Kyle, are you waving goodbye or?
Just letting you know I was here.
Oh, yeah, you're still here. Okay. All right. Yeah, because I'm not in presentation mode, so I'm not sure who's out there, but yeah, okay.
I have a
I'm still
question.
here.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So
Deputy Mayor
the dates that Alicia sent around for the next council service levels, are they only tentative then? Or
Yeah,
is that,
let's assume they're tentative for now. Some of them, there's been other topics arise that we'll be using on those dates, so we'll make adjustments to the calendar once we close today.
okay, and I just want to reconfirm then that I heard, Mayor, you said June the 2nd is not a tentative. We're still going ahead. I'm just planning my return. So
Yes.
sorry.
Yes.
June 2nd is going at
We're
noon.
still on for, yeah, we're still on for June 2nd. I think we've got it lined up with Provectus to also be part of that June 2nd meeting. So, I mean, it was a bit of a miscommunication there last night, but yeah, we got him on as well for that day. So we can do whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be protective services. If somebody else is ready to go, it can be whichever one you're ready to put in front of us. And then we'll deal with Provectus as well. And then maybe we'll have something for the next council meeting to make a decision on.
And then June 10th, we'll keep that in the calendar because we anticipate a special meeting around the desludging project.
All right.
So that one won't likely leave your calendar. It might just be adjusting in topic.
And is that the ADK one too, June the 10th?
That's a tentative for them. We're waiting for
Okay.
their response of availability. Yeah.
Okay, then, so I'm looking at the 8th and the 9th as very tentative, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We good?
Bye.
Okay. Bye. Are we adjourned? No, we're not adjourned or whatever we are. We're recessed till the next meeting. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.